My name is Joshua, and I am the Tribune. God's heart is for people and with people who want to do His purpose at all costs and want to follow His instructions and listen to Him at every step and move forward with Him in exactly what He wants to do in their lives. But the problem is, if we don't know how He guides us in these very crucial moments, in these steps, in these seasons when He's not only preparing us for our purpose, but actually advancing our purpose with Him, then how could we even work with Him? We cannot work with God if we don't understand how He operates and directs us. Now, before we go into this topic, it's very important for me to explain how God operates when He's trying to maneuver you and guide you in very important directions. And this is after you've already started moving in your purpose. So for the people who they're already advancing in their purpose, and they ask themselves, wait, how come everything's so confused and where is God? And I thought He sent me in this direction, but everything seems like it's going wrong. I don't know where to go or where to look. Now, the first thing is you must make sure that God told you to go in this direction. But this message is for people who are actually moving in God's correct direction, and they're still facing deep confusion, and they're starting to get mad at God. Before you get mad at God, you need to first check out yourself, because God's perfect. He knows exactly how to direct you that's best for Him and best for you. So if you're not hearing God's direction, you cannot blame Him. It's something that you're doing wrong. So today we're going to touch on some topics that really are disguised. It's very hard to see if you are missing God for these reasons. But if I point them out with God on this camera for you, then you will be able to assess your situation and see, is this why I cannot hear God? These are very easy fixes if you pay attention. Now, the first thing we have to understand is when God directs us, a lot of the times He must be completely distinctive from anything you would expect. Oh, this is God directing me. I just know that it's going to be this beautiful situation. He's going to move me in this direction. It's going to be so wonderful, and we're going to go. No, God has to be distinctive because He knows that you are going to really have to know throughout your journey that He told you to do every single step. Because when it gets difficult, you need to be able to look back and see, wow, no, God, I know God sent me in this direction. Nobody can convince me otherwise. So even though it's difficult, God, I know you're going to actually make it right and you're going to advance me in your purpose. What God does is He will bring seemingly negative situations to you to block certain paths so that He can guide you to the correct path. Now, again, this is even when you're moving in God's purpose and you are actually being obedient and doing the right thing, He will still send roadblocks. And those roadblocks show you, I can't go in this direction. I know God's blocked this, and I know God's blocked that. So which one is the open path? It's this one. And then you move in that direction with strength and with power and with ease, and He keeps moving forward with you. But it becomes a huge problem when we confuse our mistakes with His roadblocks. This is what we're going to be talking about today. When you understand that God operates and directs us in this manner with roadblocks, then what you want to try to do is limit the roadblocks that you put up for yourself. You want to make sure that you're not making senseless mistakes and mindless blunders while you're working with God, because then you cannot tell the difference. If you have 10 mindless blunders that you actually could have avoided, that you yourself put up on your own, and then God puts one roadblock up, you will not be able to tell the difference because now you have so many problems to sort out that you don't know which one is God. So what you have to do is you have to make sure you're consciously always trying to manage yourself and studying your actions to make sure that you are not putting up roadblocks that don't need to be put up. This then makes it very easy to see, wow, which direction does God want me to go in? Because I'm not putting up these roadblocks. They should not be there. So if He is asking me to move in this direction with Him and I see a big roadblock that just came, maybe it's God and I need to check that out and see, God, is this you? Another thing we do is we blame Satan for everything. We just blame Satan. We put up 10 roadblocks for ourselves and then call it Satan, and then incorporate God's roadblock that actually is going to save our direction. And we just call it all Satan. And we just group his in, and we even call his roadblock Satan. When really, Satan would not put up roadblocks and guide you in the right direction. Satan does not want the roadblocks up. He'd rather you go in the wrong direction, just keep going to infinity, and then go off a cliff. So we cannot even blame Satan for a lot of our roadblocks. And that's another point. If it is Satan, we need to know it's Satan. Because God will say, that's not my roadblock. Is it yours? He'll ask you, is it your roadblock? And you'll say, no, I've got everything under control over here. I'm not making foolish mistakes. It's not yours, God. It's not mine. And God will be like, that's Satan's roadblock. And let me teach you how to get around this roadblock. And because I need you to go in that direction where that roadblock is, and we're going to actually burst through it. We're going to bulldoze that roadblock in half because it's Satan's. So we must understand then that it takes practice to make sure that we're not making mindless mistakes. We have to always pay attention to everything that we're doing. We cannot just go in robotic mode and just do things and think, oh, God's moving this direction, I can just be a robot. Because when you're a robot with God, you will make many mistakes that you can actually avoid. And this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to avoid foolish mistakes that don't need to be made. He is not demanding perfection from you because he knows you're not perfect. He actually expects you to make certain mistakes. He already knows you're going to make mistakes. But if you're going to make a mistake, please make it a mistake that he has already known. He's going to make this mistake, or she's going to make this move that's wrong. And I can teach her something, but this is a mistake that she could not have avoided. Please make it a mistake like that. And that's what we're aiming for in this conversation. We're aiming to actually to make sure we're only making these mistakes that we cannot avoid. In that situation, God will say, yes, you made this mistake, but let me teach you how to not make that mistake. And let me teach you how to move through this thing. And actually, I'll give you a word out of this. Now, the next thing is, let's say you have actually paid very close attention to managing yourself and making sure you're not making mindless mistakes. The other side of it is to make sure that you're studying your inner self. You have to study your machine. You are a machine. You're not supposed to be robotic, but you are a spiritual machine. So you have to know yourself. You have to test yourself. A good example of this is you can actually move in God's purpose. You wake up in the morning and you do exactly what God wants you to do. But it's so hard and so difficult for you that it takes you forever to finish. And then you think that you're doing with spiritual warfare. You might call it Satan, or you might think God is just not with you. Maybe you think you made a mistake and you're not supposed to do that thing. But really, God will come to you and say, wait, you're just tired. You didn't get sleep last night. Don't blame me or Satan for you having a hard day doing my tasks when you stayed up playing video games or watching movies, or you just binged out on your favorite TV show, and now you can't do my work with clarity. This is your fault. You need to fix that. That's a mindless mistake. You do not need to make that kind of mistake. Save the energy that you spent entertaining yourself and put it towards my work, and you won't even have a problem. There is actually no spiritual warfare planned for that day. That was supposed to be an easy day for you. This comes in all forms. This is an example of how you need to test yourself and know and pay attention. So when God tells you that, you say, okay, now I need to adjust that. I need to go to sleep earlier every time. Because then when something comes, or when I'm feeling tired or I'm feeling discouraged, I know it's not because I'm tired, because I got enough sleep last night. And then God will say, yeah, this is now an attack. Let's navigate it. Or I have a word for you. This is my next point. After you finish managing these things inside of yourself and managing your blunders so that you can actually see where God's movements are. He will still put up roadblocks for you in your purpose in places that you wouldn't expect. And you will be operating and moving in exactly what he wants you to move in. He will bring roadblocks. Now, when the roadblocks come, you look at them and say, this has to be God making this roadblock because I prepared and I did my best preparation for this, and still I'm being stopped. This has to be God. And now the next thing is, God, what are you trying to tell me through this roadblock? I'm not going to get mad at the roadblock because now I'm getting angry at God. And he's trying to do the best work for himself, his purpose, and that includes me. So it's for my best good that this roadblock got put up. So you then have to study the roadblock. You have to study and say, okay, God, I'm not even getting mad. I need to look, what are you actually saying to me in this roadblock so I know exactly where you want me to go? From there, God will show you. Right away, he will say, this is why I put up this roadblock. It's good you noticed it. It's good you controlled your emotions. And now we need to move in this direction. And take the word with you that I gave you in that roadblock. Because there's a word in that you're going to need for this next step. So maybe it's not even a directional thing always. Maybe he's going to keep you going in that direction, but he has to put a roadblock up to get your attention because you're going to need some extra word and some extra insight and discernment for that next step, and you just keep going in that same direction. When that happens, he will remove the roadblock, and you will keep going straight with the word that came from that roadblock, and it will give you wisdom to properly execute his task. This is what he's after. He wants his tasks completed to his standards, which we don't always know what his standards are. So we must be humble enough to say, God, if you put up this roadblock and you actually are not letting me move forward, when I know you called me to this, then you are doing something very gracious and you're trying to pour into me. Throughout the journey, this happens all the time. This is why you have to manage yourself and manage your blunders and make sure you're not making mistakes that are unnecessary. Because he will continue to operate like this. You might think, oh, well, I got out of this training and now he won't use roadblocks to teach me where I need to go or to give me a word. I finished my training. Because he'll give you a new assignment. Let's say he gives you a new assignment and you're like, okay, that season's done. He's not going to do that anymore. Well, you will find out very quickly that he will still bring problems for you to get your attention and to guide you and to give you words. So then where do we go with this? Where is the end game for this principle? The end game is to make sure that you are always balanced and watching for God's roadblocks throughout your life. You need to make sure that you are always on an even keel. You need to make sure that you're paying attention to these things, and you should expect these kinds of problems because they're not really problems, they're blessings. What I like to do is I like to move forward with God and look for when he puts up a roadblock. I expect the roadblocks and I try to see that, okay, this is about time. He's probably going to put up some kind of roadblock. And when it does, I need to make sure I control my emotions. Don't let the enemy come in and attack me in that moment to try to trick me. And I need to study this with God in the most calm and peaceful way possible because it's something good for me. This is where now the enemy comes in. Satan will take God's roadblocks and take these guiding tools and try to convince you that it's him. Because God, when he puts these roadblocks up, he does not tell you right away, that's me. Because he wants you to discern these things. You need to be in touch with the Holy Spirit inside of you. You need to be a warrior. You need to be a leader. So God trains you in this way. So he will allow Satan to come first and say, that's me. Now, then it's your job to realize, go to God first. Then you need to discern that it's not Satan. So guess what? After that, the spiritual warfare is over. It's that simple. Then moving forward, you are now not only conscious of, okay, is this God's roadblock? Is he actually doing this he's stopping me in what I'm doing correctly to give me more information and more wisdom or more guidance? Or is this Satan? You start being able to discern that. And that's enough work right there. Discerning if it's God or the enemy, that's enough work. That's already, you're at your max, okay? So that's why we need to actually take out and start canceling our stupid mistakes. Because we don't want to add that kind of foolishness to that level of spiritual wisdom that we have to operate in at all times. So when you see this, when you move in this direction, God tells you, this is the direction you need to move in, and move with me this way. And then shortly after, you see a roadblock, something that completely stops you. And you know it's God. Make sure you begin to study immediately. He will lift the roadblock very fast. Even if it looks like something that is just like, this can't get fixed at all. This is crazy. This will take forever. No, it's God's roadblock. He does what he wants. His timing is his timing. It's perfect. This is a mature level of thinking in the Spirit. So this whole message should give you tools to study yourself first. Practice with yourself first. Then from there, you look and see, is this God? Or is this the enemy? And you never ask the enemy if it's him. You ask God what's going on. You check in with God and he explains to you in the Spirit what's happening. This is really operating in true power because you are now managing yourself and you're actually controlling and operating in an environment that helps, that builds your discernment. It strengthens your wisdom. God does not do things to make it hard for us. He's put this system in place so that we would actually have a better time working with him. So that we're not having anxiety while we're working with God and thinking, what's coming next? Like, what's going to happen next that's going to go wrong? No, that's not what he wants. This is for peace, so that you know, I have done my best. Now, I have made it on God to show me which way to go, however he chooses. This is my very last statement that I must make. You really should make it hard on God to show you which direction you need to go on, which path you need to move in. What I mean by that is when you're operating with God and in your purpose, God should have to do something really crazy to show you, okay, it's time to move over here. Because I have everything covered in so many areas the best I can. And I'm operating in wisdom and discernment. If something goes wrong, this has to be God that did this. Because another thing God will do is he will allow you to get everything in place and have everything as the best that you possibly can, be organized, you're not making stupid mistakes, and then he will even still take something that you think you've got covered and destroy it right in front of you. This you have to make it like this. Because that shows me if I had everything under control and I know this should not happen like this, no, Satan couldn't do this. I'm sorry. He doesn't have that much power to come and step in. And I know I'm actually moving in God's path and he's going to come and smash something. Satan does not have that kind of power. So I know The only person that could smash this thing that I actually was prepared with, didn't make a stupid mistake. I avoided all possible errors. And then this thing got crushed. Or it's not working. I know it's God. And immediately I have peace. So this is how we should be thinking. The end game is to make sure that each step is like this, where God has to come in and actually crush something, which again, it's not hard for him. But what I'm saying is you're making it easy on yourself. You're having gods, you're going to have to just take this, have an asteroid hit this camera. Now, if an asteroid came and hit this camera, I know it is God. I'm not worried if the message gets interrupted. It makes no difference because I know God sent that asteroid to just destroy this camera because he's trying to give me some kind of direction or some kind of insight. This is what we're after. Now go and operate in it. Hail Jehovah.